The vast expanse of Blackwood Ranch stretched out under the relentless Texas sun, miles of dry, cracked earth dotted with scraggly mesquite trees and herds of cattle that moved lazily across the horizon. Elias Thorne had owned this land for 40 years, ever since he inherited it from his father, who had inherited it from his own. It was a hard life, raising cattle in the unforgiving heat, battling droughts and predators, but Elias loved it. At 65, he was weathered like the land itself, tanned skin etched with deep lines, hands calloused from decades of rope and rain, and eyes that had seen too much loss. His wife had passed 15 years ago from cancer, his only son had left for the city and never looked back, and now it was just Elias, his old border collie Max, and the ranch hands who came and went with the seasons. The ranch was his everything, a legacy he guarded fiercely. But there was one part of the property that even Elias avoided. The old forbidden pasture at the far northern edge, a 100-acre plot enclosed by a rusted barbed wire fence that no one had repaired in generations. It was overgrown with thorny brush and strange, twisted oaks that seemed to lean inward, as if hiding something in their shadows. His father had warned him about it on his deathbed, voice raspy and urgent, "Don't ever go in there, boy. Don't look too close at what's beyond the rise. That's forbidden." Elias had nodded then, a young man of 25, and he'd honored that warning ever since. The hands knew better than to ask questions, they grazed the cattle everywhere else but there. Locals in the nearby town of Dust Hollow whispered about it, the forbidden pasture, they called it. Old tales of strange lights seen at night, disappearances of wanderers, livestock found mutilated in ways that no coyote could manage. But Elias dismissed it as superstition. He was a practical man, grounded in the real world of feed prices and vet bills. One blistering afternoon in late summer, Elias was out repairing a broken fence line near the edge of the forbidden pasture when he noticed something odd. The cattle were avoiding that side entirely, bunching up on the southern fields as if spooked. Even Max, usually fearless, whined and tucked his tail when Elias rode his horse closer to the fence. Curiosity nagged at him, the kind that builds slowly over years of wondering. Why had his father been so adamant? What could possibly be in there that warranted such fear? Elias shook it off and went back to work, but that night, as he sat on his porch with a beer, staring at the dark silhouette of the pasture against the starry sky, the doubt crept in stronger. He remembered fragments of stories his grandfather had told, something about an old native burial ground, or maybe a curse from settlers who wronged the land. Nonsense, he told himself. But sleep didn't come easy. Dreams plagued him. Shadowy figures moving in the brush, whispers calling his name, a pull like gravity drawing him northward. The next day brought a storm, rare and violent, rolling in from the west with thunder that shook the ground. Rain pounded the tin roof of the ranch house, turning the dirt roads to mud. Elias checked on the livestock, making sure they were sheltered, but his mind wandered back to the pasture. During a lull in the downpour, he saddled up his horse, Thunder, and rode out, telling himself he was just checking for flood damage near the fence. But as he approached, he saw it. A section of the old barbed wire had been torn down by the wind, a gaping hole big enough for a man on horseback to pass through. The forbidden pasture lay open, inviting in a way it never had before. Elias hesitated, his father's words echoing, "Don't. That's forbidden." He turned Thunder away, but not before catching a glimpse of something unusual, a faint glow deep in the brush, like sunlight reflecting off water, though there was no creek there. He rode back home unsettled, the storm picking up again as if angry at his near transgression. Days passed, and the torn fence gnawed at him. He could have fixed it easily, but he didn't. Instead, he found excuses to ride near it, peering through the gap from afar. The cattle still avoided the area, and Max refused to go anywhere close. One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in blood-red hues, Elias stood at the fence line on foot, staring into the overgrown field. The air felt different there, heavier, charged with an unnatural stillness. Birds didn't sing, insects didn't buzz. Just silence. And then, movement. Something shifted in the shadows beyond the rise his father had mentioned, a low hill that blocked the view of whatever lay deeper in. Elias's heart pounded. Just a deer, he muttered, but he knew it wasn't. It was taller, humanoid in shape, but wrong somehow, gliding rather than walking. He backed away quickly, mounting Thunder and galloping home, sweat soaking his shirt despite the cool evening breeze. That night, the dreams intensified. He saw himself crossing into the pasture, climbing the rise, and looking down into a hidden valley. There, bathed in an eerie, unnatural light, was something impossible, A circle of ancient stones, pulsing with energy, and figures dancing around it, not quite human. Their faces turned to him, empty voids where eyes should be, mouths opening in silent screams. He woke drenched in sweat, Max whining at his bedside. The next morning, Elias called his foreman, Jake, and told him to stay clear of the north fence. Jake, a young man in his 30s with a family in town, nodded without question. Everyone knew the stories, but Elias couldn't let it go. The pull was magnetic now, a compulsion that overrode reason. He told himself he'd just peek, fix the fence from inside if needed, and leave. No harm in looking, right? His father's warning rang hollow against the burning curiosity. Finally, on a moonless night a week later, Elias gave in. He waited until the ranch hands had gone home, then saddled Thunder under the cover of darkness, flashlight in hand but unlit. The air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth as he approached the torn fence. Dismounting, he led Thunder through the gap, his boots sinking into the soft mud. The pasture felt alive, branches brushing against him like fingers, the ground uneven and treacherous. Max had refused to follow, staying back at the house with a mournful howl. Elias pressed on, heart racing with a mix of fear